Hello, welcome back to Healing Mama podcast. I want to start off by thanking everyone for the love and support, for listening, the comments, the likes, the shares. It actually means so much to me. You have no idea. It's pretty scary going into this and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. But if I can share my story and one person can relate and know that they're not alone in this and that they have somebody that, you know, they can listen to, talk to, reach out to, then everything is worth it. So I wanted to start off with a opening quote. And the quote is, "There is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't," by John Green. And second quote would be, "I want to talk about it. I want to scream. I want to yell. I want to shout out about it. But all I can do is whisper, 'I'm fine.'" Author unknown. And so for me, these really, really hit home. I feel like the brain does a lot of negative self-talk. At least mine does. I don't want to speak for everybody. But it's easy to listen to your brain say all these negative things to you, about you. And you're like, you know what? You hear it every day. Most of the time, I would say more often than not, people don't wake up in the morning and they're like, yeah, I'm a bad bitch. Or yeah, I'm a badass dude. My shit don't stink. A lot of the times, I feel like more often than not, people are waking up and they look at themselves in the mirror, and they're like not loving it. It's easy to say, hey, I put on pounds, or I want to put on pounds and I can't seem to gain weight, or vice versa. Or it's easy to say, you know what, I'm miserable and the bills are piling up and I'm just so unhappy. And it's easier to tell yourself the bad things and believe those bad things versus if you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself, I am loved, I am strong, I am capable. And you do that daily. And slowly but surely, you start to believe it. Your brain starts to form that pattern. And it's like, okay, I believe this because for so long you dove into the I'm fat, I'm ugly, or I'm too skinny, I'm not making enough money, I'm not good enough. And your brain believes it because it's just on repeat over and over and over in your head. And you have to rewire in a sense. You have to rewire your brain and say, no, I'm going to think positive. And I'm not going to tell you that I think positive all the time, but I do, wake up in the morning and I do, have self-affirmations. You can kind of see they're kind of written down there in the mirror just in case I forget. And I do try to rewire my brain because it's very easy to slip into the negativity of it all. So there's hope even when your brain tells you there isn't is very, very strong, because a lot of the times I felt like I didn't have hope and I felt like, what was the point of going on? And we'll kind of get into that here. And then I want to talk about it. I want to scream. I want to yell. I want to shout out about it. But all I could do is whisper, I'm fine. And I feel like that is so many of us. I feel like we don't want to share our story and we're embarrassed because we feel weak and we feel like we should be stronger, and we shouldn't tell people we're going through depression, and we shouldn't tell people we have anxiety because it's almost embarrassing. So you tell people, no, I'm fine, I'm good. And you kind of have this facade, and it reminds me of the commercial with the lady with the smiley face. And that's truly what it is. You walk around pretending and, showing people, hey, I'm good, I'm successful, I'm doing, great in life. But deep down inside, even though those things are true, you are miserable and you're not okay, but you just tell the world, I'm fine. And so definitely I wanted to open up with those quotes. And I feel like that's something that I'll be doing for every episode, that's coming up. I want to start off with a quote and kind of diving into that and how that relates to me and hopefully, resonates with you as well. I also wanted to share some statistics. So over 49,000 people died by suicide in 2022. 13.2 million people seriously thought about suicide, and 1.6 million attempted suicide. And I could have easily been one of those statistics. 2022 was the year I was diagnosed with severe depression. And I was in that number of people who seriously thought about suicide. And I know that that's, again, a stigma to talk about, and people don't want to hear it, but more often than not, I would say look around in the room and somebody that you're, looking at or that's across from you has thought about it or is currently thinking about it. But again, it goes back to the quote where I'm fine. Nothing's happening. I'm okay to the world. They don't know what the inside looks like. So wanted to kind of talk to you a bit about my story. Bear with me if I'm looking down. It's because I have my notes and I wanted to be prepared for you guys and basically make sure that, I'm providing the best quality story and breakdown of my life that I can. So I was diagnosed at the age of 16. So I remember I was at home. It was me and my mom and her husband, Pedro. And so we were at home, and I can remember my heart racing. Like, my heart was racing. I felt like something was wrong. I thought I was going to die. And I remember just telling my mom, like, I can't breathe. Like, I can't breathe. By this time, I wasn't hyperventilating or anything. But I remember telling her, like, something's wrong. I can't breathe. Like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to the hospital. So we got in the car. We went to the hospital. And they took what felt like forever to see me. And by that point in time, I was hyperventilating. My body was literally shutting down. Like, I couldn't even walk into the hospital either. They put me in a wheelchair because my hands were like crippling from the lack of oxygen that wasn't going through my body properly. And so that is when they diagnosed me with anxiety. And I honestly don't know where it came from. I'm assuming my childhood trauma. Could totally be wrong. I'm not a physician. But that is when it all kind of started. And so that kind of led me into my early 20s, mid 20s, where that anxiety was never taken care of. Again, back to the intro, I didn't want to take medication or anything like that. And my family wasn't one for medication. It was, we're going to pray and God is going to take it away. And so I went my life, most of my adult life, without being treated for anxiety. And at this point in time, I didn't have the depression. It was specifically just anxiety. And I remember it leading up to panic attacks. So the panic attacks would come when I had high levels of stress, stuff with work or home, and I can feel when they were coming in. And I'll never forget this one time. I had started a new job and I was so anxious because it was a different field for me. And so the level of stress that I was causing myself and the level of anxiousness that I had was so high that I was at work and I could feel my panic attack coming on. And so thinking, oh my God, I'm like here 1 week, I'm embarrassed. I can't just pass out on the floor or tell them that I'm having an anxiety attack. Like, I'm going to lose my job. And so I remember going into the restroom and my breathing was kind of starting to get a little bit out of control. And I just remember telling myself, like, stay calm, breathe, think about something else. And I just remember thinking, like, God, I cannot have this happen here. Like, it literally feels like you're going to die. So the worst starts to go through your head. And I was like, no, we're not going to think like that. We're going to like reverse this. We're going to think positive and really just give myself time in the restroom, which I needed. It just, even now talking about it makes me a little bit anxious, to be honest, but it was a lot. So I felt like that untreated anxiety could have been a factor in depression for me as well. Not going to say that was the only thing, but I feel like most of the time, if you do have something that's untreated, it does get worse. And so I feel like that was a factor, even to the point where I could not go into public places that were crowded. So grocery shopping, I was ordering online because I couldn't deal with the people. And not in the sense of like I couldn't deal with them, like they were getting on my nerves or they were rude. I couldn't deal with the crowd. Like, I would literally have a panic attack. I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't go to Six Flags. I couldn't do anything fun because the crowd would trigger my anxiety, which led me to feel sad because I felt like, well, my husband can't do this, my kids can't do this because mom can't do anything. Um, and it hurt. It hurt because I wanted to be able to, be the person that I used to be. I used to be, you know, going to parties when I was in high school and, going to clubs when I was in my early 20s and living life. And then all of a sudden it switched. And that was a lot to take in. And then on top of I had several major passings in my life at that point in time. And then that's when I was diagnosed with a depression in 2022. And so I would catch myself sitting in the room or in my living room if nobody was there, just bawling my eyes out, just crying and crying. But like, I mean, crying from like my heart, crying from like my soul. And I could just remember just being in this dark place and I could feel like as long as I was by myself, I could be vulnerable and let that out because I didn't have to be mom. I didn't have to be wife. I didn't have to be an employee. I could just let it out and nobody was around and I didn't have to hide and be that I'm fine person. And so I thought I was doing pretty well at hiding it. Again, until my husband was like, hey, yeah, it's not working, lady. You have to get help. And so I feel like at a certain point in time, my brain was telling me, it's not worth it to be here anymore. Why are we even still alive? I felt like I was worthless. I felt like I was just empty inside. And I also had survivor's guilt. So my cousin passed away, and I feel like that was the final straw that broke the camel's back. My cousin passed away in 2021 of COVID. 1 year older than me, super healthy, very strong, young, lively. He was an amazing, amazing person. And he got COVID, and then a week later, I got COVID. And so while he was in the hospital, I was sick and terrified that I was going to end up in the hospital as well. And so I feel like the fact that he passed and he went through so much before passing and I was okay led me to feel guilty. Like I would ask God, why him? Like, why did he make it and I didn't? Sorry, the other way around. Why did he pass and I made it through? And I felt very guilty. And so when my birthday came around, I didn't want to celebrate the holidays. So he passed in September. I am a Halloween junkie. I love Halloween. That's my favorite holiday. It's Halloween. I wasn't the same. Christmas, I didn't want to decorate to where the point where my daughter was like, can I decorate if you're not going to decorate? Which I was sad, but I couldn't bring myself to break out of these emotions, these feelings. And so I let her decorate because I felt bad. And I was like, Christmas can't stop because I'm in a mood or I'm sad. And at this point in time, I felt like my world stopped when he passed. A part of me passed. And I know that sounds crazy to say, and some people might think I'm dramatic or whatever the case, and that's fine. But he was like my brother. Like he was an only child. I was an only child for so long, and that was my brother. And even as adults, we may have drifted, but those connections are never lost. And I held so much guilt in my heart for being alive still. And when it was my birthday, I was like, you know what? Like, it's another year. Yeah, but it's another year that I get to live and he didn't. And so I feel like at some point I had to learn to forgive myself. And I had to learn that him passing means that he was able to complete his purpose for what he was here on earth for. And I haven't yet. And so I had to learn to forgive myself for, surviving COVID and not carrying that guilt with me. And so a lot of the time when I was struggling with that, I would tell myself, like, let's think of ways, like, how can I leave this earth without hurting my husband, without hurting my kids, my mom. And I was seriously thinking about ways to take my life. But it sounds stupid because I was thinking about ways to take my life, but in ways that I thought wouldn't hurt my family, which my family would be hurt regardless, no matter how I went. But at that point in time, my brain wasn't thinking clearly and it wasn't taking that. It was like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, how can I go with the least amount of pain for my family? It wasn't even pain for myself. It was like, I don't want to hurt them, but I don't want to be here anymore. And I think the only person that knew that was my husband. And he didn't even know right away. He didn't know until months later till I was like, hey, like this is how bad and how dark it got. And so I feel like every day just kind of like merged and intertwined together. And it was like empty and there was no joy and it was just pain and hurt and guilt and devastation. And I felt like I was worthless to my family in that state. In that state, I was like, okay, you know what? All I'm here for is to not hurt my kids in the sense of like they have their mom physically, but I wasn't there mentally. And that was still hurting them. Um, but I will tell you that medication did help. But another thing that truly, truly changed my life, and this is going to sound crazy, like really crazy, but I don't care, is my dogs. Like my dogs saved my life. I kid you not. And again, that sounds crazy because I have my husband, I have my kids, I have my family, but everybody's living, doing their own thing. So my kids are teenagers. My husband is, working and doing what he has to do, going to the gym. And I felt like I wasn't needed. And that's a me thing. That is not on my family at all. That is totally a me thing. But I felt like I didn't have a sense of purpose. And so I got our first dog. He's a Doberman. His name is Zeus. We purchased him in October. And he was this little tiny thing. He came to us a little bit sick. And so, being there for him, feeding him, training him, taking him to vet appointments, I slowly but surely, at the same time as this new medicine was kicking in, I slowly but surely started to get out of my funk because meds, new situation, it was working out. It was keeping me busy. My mind didn't have time to sit there and think of bad shit. And so we got Zeus, and then shortly after, about 3 months later, we got our boys, Rico and Debo, who are two Cane Corsos, big boys. We got them in January, January. I think it was January. And then I was a full-blown pup mom. I was busy with 3 puppies and training them and loving on them and feeling like I again had a sense of purpose, which again sounds crazy because I had my family, but these little babies like needed me. Like if I didn't feed them, they weren't going to eat. They're not like my kids who can run downstairs, make themselves something, grab a snack. They're not like my husband who could do the same. They actually needed me to feed them. They needed me to take care of them. They needed me to train them. So it gave me that sense of purpose. And so I always tell everyone, my mom, my kids, my husband, like these dogs saved my life. And the love that I have for them is like no other love I've had for any other dog. I love them like if they're my children. Like I look at them and I'm like, guys, like, do you know you saved me? And so I give them so much love and I am so grateful for that, for bringing them into my life. I'm grateful to God because I needed that. So they helped save my life. A lot of the times, I'm not going to lie, I used to think that emotional support animals was bullshit. Yeah. I was like, okay, I can understand the service animal, helping somebody who's blind, helping people with like severe illnesses, but emotional support, no, that's bullshit. Like, nobody needs a dog for emotional support. Yeah, I do. So I have a completely different mindset on emotional support animals. They really, really do make a difference for a lot of us. And so I still have my fur babies today. still taking medication. I still have my good days. I still have my bad days. Um, I don't know if or when I'll come off of medication, and that's fine. I'm learning to be gracious with myself and know that it's okay to still be on them. Like when I was first diagnosed with depression and they put me on these medications, again, I was reluctant to take them. And then I was like, okay, a year and I'm going to get off. Like a year came around and I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. And she's like, I don't think you're ready. And by she, I mean my psychiatrist. And so I'm like, no, I'm ready. I tried to get off of them. Yeah, that didn't work. I ended up snowballing and it was probably worse the second go around. So I'm learning that it's okay to still be on them. I'm learning that it's okay to take my medication and need what I need as support. So I'm learning to be gracious with myself. So I just want everybody to know that it's okay to go through stages of your life and it's normal and you're not alone. And if you do feel like you're alone, and you don't have anybody to listen to you or to vent with, that you feel they're not going to look at you like you're crazy and like, okay, is this person going to hurt themselves? Because sometimes we're generally not going to hurt ourselves. We're just going through a day and we need to vent. So it's almost like you want to say something, but at times you're afraid because you're like, if I'm going to say something, are they going to think like I'm going to try to hurt myself? And it's not always that serious. Sometimes it is, but it's not always that serious. So if ever you need somebody to listen to you or just you want to vent and you don't have anybody, please reach out to me on social media. I have Facebook, I have TikTok, I have Instagram. And so if you follow me at Healing Momma Podcasts on any of those social media sites, I am there to listen to you. I am blessed to be able to do what I do from home. And so I do have time on my hands and I'm here. I don't have to know you. If somebody shared this and you're listening and you're like, hey, I need somebody to talk to, but I don't know this girl, it's okay. We can be besties. Message me. And I'm here to listen and listen without judgment and listen from a perspective of I've been there and I'm still here and we're going to get through this. Another thing that I want to tell you is what's really helped me besides my medication and my dogs is setting a routine for myself. So I would say probably within the last 2 months, I've set this routine for myself where if I don't do this routine, I am in a funk, I'm moody, and I'm starting my day wrong. So I set the routine of I wake up in the morning, I will take a shower if I'm able to. Sometimes I have to run, I'm out the door, I'm on calls. But ideally, the first thing I do is I wake up, I'll take a shower, I will brush my teeth, get ready for the day. I open the blinds to let some light in. If I can, I want to go outside, even if it's just to take in a little bit of sunlight, a little bit of fresh air. And then I drink my tea or my water. And this is going to sound crazy, but in a cup that I like. So I have this cup right here. It says Aquarius baby, and I'm just drinking water, but I like drinking in a pretty cup. So it helps. So really setting a routine for yourself. So I encourage you, if you're struggling with anxiety or depression and it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, set a routine for yourself. I know the feeling of it being difficult to get out of bed because I could have slept in the past for like 13, 14 hours and still been in bed. Like if I had nothing to do, and this would have to pull me out of bed or be like, hey, like, come on, let's go. Because I just could not get myself out of bed. And some people, they can't sleep. Some people, it's too much sleep. Some people, it's not enough. So I really, really recommend you setting a routine for yourself. And if you can, and you're open, I suggest meditation. Meditation before you get up out of bed or in the shower. I personally do that, as well as my affirmations, my daily affirmations, and really try to set an intention for my day. And I've found that the days that I don't stick to that schedule or that routine, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm more irritable. I am more on edge, and I don't like that person. And so I do have to make it a point for self-care. And so it makes me think of when you're going to fly on a plane and you have kids, they tell you, hey, make sure to put your mask on before you put your child's mask on. And I used to be like, what the hell? I'm going to put my kid's mask on first. Why would I put my mask on first? And then it clicked. You have to put your mask on in order for them to be okay so you could put theirs on. So it's the same thing with mental health or your life. You have to take care of you so that you can in turn take care of other people. Because how can you take care of somebody when you are not taking care of yourself? You have to be replenished, you have to be refilled, and you have to be happy in order to give that back and radiate that back. And so I challenge you to set that routine for yourself. Set time to love on yourself, care for yourself, even if it's a simple walk. I am not a runner, but I will go for walks. I will go for a bike ride. I will go sit at the park, just me by myself, to give myself that time. And that's something that I need and something that helps me. So I encourage you to keep going, keep pushing. And when you feel like you're at a point where you just need somebody to talk to, again, please reach out to somebody, a loved one, a friend, me, if you feel like you don't have anyone. And we're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And let's start to be gracious with ourselves and be kind with ourselves and know that we are capable, we are strong, and we are creating a life slowly but surely that we are going to love and that we deserve. And so I will wrap that up. I appreciate you joining and listening or watching. And I send you nothing but love, positivity, and good energy. And I hope you have an amazing day. And until next time, have a great one.